I want to go over the 4 teams that lost this divisional weekend, and we don't have to spend too much time on them. They lost. We got to get to the winners here in a little bit. The Texans, though, they are eliminated. They lost to the Chiefs in this way. They had these calls. They were saying after the game, including head coach DeMeco Ryans, that they expected this game to be them versus everyone, and they meant everybody. It happened. They had bad calls against them, but I'm not going to take the full blame and put it on the refs in this one. The Texans had wildly shitty special teams issues that happened that cost them that game. They had opportunities, but they just couldn't get it done. What do you guys see happening with the Texans next, Zoo? Do you see the Texans staying competitive and being able to drive some momentum for next year?
I mean, they kind of need to because they had such a great start and then they got all the weapons that they needed for the season. They showed what the defense can do. CJ Stroud wasn't short of having anybody to throw to. They just couldn't put it together. So I think it really comes down to just refining the scheme and what works and what doesn't work and possibly get some help to make those. Like they have the roster. It's just whatever fine tuning they need to do. So it really comes down to coaching and planning to actually be able to put points on the board and win.
Yeah, they have like the roster itself. I'm not totally concerned about. Like, if at this point they just need to address the defensive side of the ball and just go defensive heavy in their free agent market and the draft this year, especially with the amount of talent that's coming out in the draft on the defensive side of the ball. And then, yeah, I mean, the wide receiver room right now is a big question mark. Are you going to bring Stephon back? You're not going to bring Deontay back. He already re-signed with the Ravens.
He got picked. He got claimed. Yeah, he got claimed by the Ravens, but he can't. He wouldn't be able to get any benefits from them until after the Super Bowl.
Right. And it's just like you have 2 aging wide receivers outside of Deontay Johnson. You had Stephon and Robert Woods, who are both 32-ish. And then you still don't have Tank Dell next year. So it's like maybe you take a flyer and some other random wide receiver in the market, maybe a Chris Godwin. You can convince him to come over. I'm sure he's gotten used to not having an income tax there in Florida and Tampa Bay. So maybe you can entice him to come to Houston.
Brown might be free again.
Yeah. There's plenty. There's going to, for the needs that the Texans have, there's plenty of options. I am not worried about them, and their saving grace is that they play in the AFC South. They'll be fine. I'm not worried about them.
I'm not worried about them I'm not worried about them really in any capacity because, like you said, it's the AFC South. It's just you don't want to get complacent. You want to get past that sophomore slump that we were predicting and talking about for not only Stroud but also DeMeco Ryans.
It's really about discipline and locking in.
Yeah, that's it. It's just lockdown and, no Tank Dell sucks, but you still have Nico Collins playing great. And maybe if you can if Diggs is interested and get him back for like a cheap 1 year, sure, bring him back and maybe pick up somebody else. Just like you don't need a big name, just somebody that's consistent, somebody that's doable, and bring them in there.
Now go.
I knew it as soon as I said it.
You got it.
Well, let's talk about another team that's going to have, I would think, maybe a little tougher of a road, and that's the LA Rams. I want to bring up the Los Angeles Rams here. They're in a traditionally tough division, the NFC West, and they already, for me, exceeded expectations, even though I predicted them for the Super Bowl this year, but I didn't think that they would actually be, once it hit like around mid-season, I was kind of on the same train. I was like, yeah, you got to trade Cooper Kupp, just blow this thing up. It's not looking good anymore. They outperformed mid-season expectations, got into the playoffs. Honestly, I think would have won that game if it wasn't for the snow. I think the weather was a complete determining factor for them, and Eagles gave them opportunities. They gave them a chance all the way up till the end to try and steal that one, and LA, they just couldn't clinch it. I think the next thing for them is, that any team, I think, run by Sean McVay is going to be competitive. It's determining whether or not Matt Stafford's going to be a part of it or not. And they're waiting still to see if Stafford's going to return for another season. I would expect he does, and maybe they need to go ahead and start looking for the heir. Maybe look for somebody in the draft that's going to be an heir. Like Will Howard Quinn Ewers, they scream LA Rams 4th round quarterback pick. That's almost perfect for them. And defense, I think they're on the really right path. Jared Verse is awesome. That other dude from FSU,
Braden Fisk.
yeah, awesome.
They're both up for Defensive Player of the Year right now.
Cam Curl was a great pickup for them. We've kind of thought that he would from his time in Washington. I think the Rams have a good path. I'm curious to see if Cooper Kupp is still going to be with the team next year. He might be one of those players that you could see wind up in like a Houston or something. That's, a good veteran mind. Overall, I like their chances. I think they still have another shot with Seattle trying to figure out what they're doing. Arizona trying to figure out how to take the next step. And the Niners, you're going to see if they can come back or not. Rams have a fighting shot for next year. I don't know how, you two feel.
Yeah, I mean, the NFC West isn't anywhere near as inept as the AFC South is. I mean, it's still hyper competitive. Anybody could win it year in and year out. But I think for them, to harp on what you said, yeah, you're going to have to start thinking about the future at the quarterback position for the Rams, right? Because Stafford, he's not getting any younger. Jimmy G is up for a free agent. So like, are you going to try to retain him? Like, what are you going to try to do there? And then, yeah, you're going to have to address that quarterback decision in the draft, because if you look at the list of potential free agents in the quarterback market, it's the Jameis Winstons, maybe Mac Jones comes over, maybe try to reignite something there in LA with him.
Willis.
Yeah, the Malik Willis sweepstakes.
God, no. Hey, bring Teddy Bridgewater over. I'm pretty sure Matt Stafford's time in LA that window is closing pretty quick. So you need to figure out what to do there. And then other than that, just retaining a lot of your production. Like you make a decision on your tackles with Noteboom and Alaric Jackson. Mm-hmm. They're two really great young corner pieces you can have on that offensive line. And like you said, Cooper Kupp, he might be gone. They might trade him away to get some kind of pieces for him. So at that point, you're kind of forced to bring back DeMarcus Robinson back. I mean, the amount of time that he's on the field, especially when Cooper was out or when Puka was out, like he's been in the system now for a while. So you might as well just retain him for another, 31, 32?
Yeah.
How many more years does he have left? You can get him on a cheap 2-year deal and call it a day.
Especially if you don't have Cup. But yeah, I think their season really did start off with a lot of injuries and just a lot of unfortunate circumstances, but they do have quite a bit of pieces to work off of. And say Stafford does stay for another year or two, I mean, you have the consistency there, but he's got to retire at some point, right?
He's 36, right? 35, 36? He's up there.
Yeah, there's only so many hits he can take before, especially with how like reckless he can be sometimes when he gets super into it. But I think that team could just do with some fine tuning, kind of fortify the pieces that you do need, get another strong wide receiver, whatever defensive pieces you need at that point. Obviously, fortify your line so that Stafford can stay as healthy as possible. But with the way that the rest of that division is looking, with the Niners just crumbling themselves, the Seahawks just being a very gamble team of just not knowing which version of them you're getting each week, I think the Rams are in a position to be the most consistent throughout a season than the rest of their compadres.
He'll be 37, Stafford will be next February. Or next February 7th. He's going to be...
So in 2 weeks?
Yeah. So...
Hey, happy birthday, Matt.
Yeah, we could be looking at the end there, but I like them to have just like one more year in this window that they have, and maybe draft a late quarterback like a Jalen Milroe, like right there somewhere late that you can develop, and somebody that has a little more mobility than Stafford, because you needed that. You needed that during the snow because they weren't getting shit else. It's going to be something. Somebody that has mobility, though. That's Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. And that's a curious case. That's a curious case of a team that I'm excited to explore with you guys, because this is a team that we talked about in preseason and we've talked about for a while now. Lamar could win MVP again. Go ahead. They could go 14-2, 15-1, whatever. 16-0, whatever. Impress us as much as you want during the regular season. All that matters for that team is what are you going to do in the postseason? What can Lamar do in a high-pressure clutch situation? And I am hating that Lamar is starting to develop this legacy, but do you think we could be looking at like a Dan Marino type of situation with him where he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and is not going to sniff a ring? Not only one, because I don't know if it's a mental thing that he can't do it in these high pressure situations, or it's a Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers kind of shitty situation where, they had Brady and Manning eating everything up for years in the AFC, and now you have Mahomes and Allen and Herbert and Burrow. Like, it's an insane crop of quarterbacks in the AFC. So, Zoo, what are you feeling about your Baltimore Ravens for next year?
Mine ill. I mean, what else can you do at this point? Like, that on paper was the ideal Super Bowl team. What do you change? What you have the disciplined coach, you have the infrastructure, you have all the resources you need, you had the players. Like, just gotta do it. I really don't know what else like to say at that point. Just
do it. Do it.
Fucking win.
I know what you can say.
I don't care if you do, but you gotta win.
I know what we can officially call them. Fraud.
Yeah, I mean, this was the team. You bring in Derrick Henry, Lamar's there. You have, I guess you have Zay Flowers there, but I think for them this offseason, they need to address the trenches on both sides of the ball, on offense and defense. And I think bringing in a dynamic, clear number one wide receiver, because Zay Flowers is great. Like, he shows really amazing flashes of being a true talent in the NFL. But like, it just seems like that wide receiver room is just lacking something. They're really lacking some real true threat on the outside to where it starts making them very one-dimensional. I mean, especially when you have your surefire tight end dropping a ball right at the goal line to get the 2-point conversion. It's just like Mark Andrews. He looked like a shell of the man that he used to be this season. Like, was he overly impressive this year? Ask my fantasy team. No.
But that's what sucks is he had a great game. I still
can't get over the fact that Ravens social media before the game had a post of Mark Andrews like catching warm-up passes saying the snow doesn't bother him. Oh, everybody was reposting it. Clearly it does.
I mean, hell, bring in Tyreek at that point. What's the worst you got to lose?
I was just about to say Zay Flowers strikes me as a Jalen Waddle type, right? Like, he's really good. He's really solid. He's a borderline one. He's a borderline star one. He can do it if you need him to. But if you brought in somebody like a Tyreek Hill, that'd be a hell of a personality in Baltimore. But you can think of all the different options that you can run, the incredible athleticism and speed, just dangerous as hell between him, Lamar, Henry. But then you start getting those questions of like, how much does Lamar need? How much does he need to be able to win? We're seeing
he's the MVP quarterback, right? Look
at what you got in Buffalo. I mean, look at what Josh Allen's working with there. I mean, James Cook's no joke, and Ray Davis is playing. He's a pretty damn good rookie. But you got Khalil Shakir. I think allegedly Amari Cooper's there. I don't know where he's been. But he's somewhere there. I don't know what the Ravens do, man. Like,
I mean, my question would be, when does the heat start getting turned up on Harbaugh? He's been there since 2008. Like, when's the heat start getting turned up on him? Because like you said, his roster was, for all intents and purposes, it was the best roster he's probably had in a decade.
I think the burners.
Like, when did the fingers start getting pointed at him?
I think the burners clicked on just as much as for him as Tomlin. Where to be fair, it's going to be on a medium low right now. I don't know if it's hot, but I got him on medium low simmer.
Hey, I know Tomlin has a no trade clause in his contract, but hey, how about they just get on the field and they just swap coaches? Harbaugh goes to Pittsburgh.
Oh my
Harbaugh goes to
God.
Pittsburgh. Tomlin goes to Baltimore.
That'd be so funny.
Just chaotic. Oh my God. Do you think, just briefly, do you two think that they have a shot at winning the division next year again compared to what you have either brewing in Pittsburgh, Cleveland, or Cincinnati? It's one of the most cutthroat divisions in the sport.
Cleveland, I'm not worried. Yeah.
Burrow's got a chip on his shoulder. They're going to fortify the hell out of that defense, and he is going to come back with a vengeance.
I mean, look at all the hardware that all these Bengals are up for right now this year, going into the end of the season. Like, outside of just a playoff appearance, like they're up for MVP, offensive players of the year, defensive players of the year. Like, they're all over the place. But like the Browns, I'm not concerned about. It's the Browns. The Steelers are still going to finish 9-8. Blah, 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 blah. They'll squeak into the playoffs. But yeah, the Bengals, if they don't have the quintessential slow start that they typically have had the last couple of years, yeah, it's all over.
Who do the Steelers get in with quarterback next year?
Kirk Cousins.
Wow.
I don't think Kirk Cousins is playing outside.
Kirk's a Michigan man. He likes the cold.
Yeah, maybe he needs it because inside didn't work this year. So maybe he needs something to, like light a little fire under him. And I mean, the Ravens are also going to be looking at possibly losing some pieces like Ronnie Stanley, great left tackle for them,
huge
scheduled
name.
to be a free agent. I would love to see him, roll down 95 and pop up for us. You brought up all the awards that the Bengals have, and I don't want to get stuck in the weeds on it. I just want to bring it up real quickly. Why is Damar Hamlin nominated for Comeback Player of the Year again? Like, what is he? Because
he didn't get it last year.
What's he? So he's coming back from not winning the Comeback Player of the Year.
He came back from the dead. Of course, he's going to come back for a second year in a row.
If he
what were his stats this year? I want to see what his stats were really quick.
If Damar Hamlin won Comeback Player of the Year, should they give it to him posthumously? Just give him just like a posthumous, but you're not dead, but you were, and you're winning this because you were, so we're giving it to you there.
89 tackles on 2 picks for the season.
Not bad for a dead man. That's not bad for a ghoul. I think that's like top 5 ghoul stats right there.
Where's that? Now I want to see where that ranks among the NFL. Well, I'm like Googling NFL.
Yeah, you'll get a lot. I accidentally just straight up Googled Matts when I was looking at Matt Stafford, and now I have a list that I'll put away to the side for, something to ponder day, a rainy day list of top 5 worst Matts, because there's a lot of shitty Matts. Might be one of the worst names, apparently.
Hey, rude.
Apologies to Matt. I'm sorry.
It's my middle name you're talking about there.
Oh,
I was like, what is he getting so offended about? Is it in his name somewhere?
Stop that.
OLI.
Listen, I didn't win favorite Scott. I got to get on the favorite Matt train, right?
I mean, you had to lose. You came in number 2. You were on top. You were
Your initials are SME.
It is SME. S&M.
Stephen Bay Smith and Smee duking it out.
Smee. That's what we need to do. Reid can be Peter Pan, and then Zoo can be Hook, and then I'll be Smee, the little portly little deckhand from Peter Pan.
I think you just want us to wear costumes for a show.
You're built like him. I meant the one from Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
At the Peter Pan.
Well, this is going to be my farewell show for you folks at home. I'm not coming back.
Well, let's end it properly for him, and we're going to end it talking about another team that, number 1 seed in the NFC, and who did the Detroit Lions get taken out by?
The fucking Commanders! Ah!
Oh man, those poor Lions, man. I kind of fell for them. I kind of fell for them, but I was stupid happy. I was out of my mind.
I felt for everyone except St. Brown.
Yeah, and that Detroit broadcaster who was talking before the game about how if Jaden Daniels runs the ball 10 times, he's going to see the blue medical tent. Who saw the blue medical tent, buddy? I was laughing my ass off. Not at Goff getting hurt, but just at the idea. I was laughing my ass at the broadcaster. The Lions, though, man, they had a season like this was supposed to be the year. All the expectations were being built, and it's a dangerous thing, expectations, because this is a team that got, was viewed as lucky of getting into the playoffs last year and then getting to the NFC Championship game. They were expected to just be in the NFC Championship game, potentially duke it out for a Super Bowl win, their first ever. And they just got straight up whooped. 45-31. Like, nothing was going right. Nothing was going right for Goff. Dan Campbell cried after the game. So that's how you know it was a big impact game there. I believe in the Lions to be able to, be the same level of competitive next year, to be have the same level of ferociousness and have a chip on their shoulder now for it. They'll have, they had 18 players out on IR. A lot of their defensive stars, including Aiden Hutchinson, they get them all back. They get everybody healthy and ready. That's going to be a force no matter what next year. What is a concern, I believe, is the coaching staff. Like, it's the monkey's paw when it comes to success in the NFL. You win, your coaching staff is getting poached. And that happened dramatically with the Lions this year. They've lost now their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who's now the head coach of the Bears, and their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, who has gone to the New York Jets.
And their defensive line coach.
Defensive line coach is gone. They're expected to possibly lose their O-line coach to be an offensive coordinator for one of those teams. They're expected to possibly lose their quarterbacks coach, Mark Brunell, to be an offensive coordinator. Like, it's rough. It's rough. So Zoo, we beat them. What are your expectations now for the Lions for next year?
I think this will show what Dan Campbell is as a coach and what he is as a leader of men, because I feel like he is a facilitator. He's not one to really take it all on himself. And it really is going to speak to the type of staff that he brings in and what they're capable of doing to his vision and to his culture. And if they can sustain it, then they have a chance of going to a Super Bowl again, and I will completely support that. But at the time, it really is like, all right, Dan, you're on the spot. Like, everything lined up for you. It's crumbled. What's your next step to build it back up?
Yeah, it's not a roster issue. It's going to be coaching at this point. Like, what are they going to do? Like, I really like a shout for like Kelvin Shepard, the linebackers coach for Detroit, to take over the defensive side of the ball. It seems to be a player's coach. I think they have really great candidates in there. Or hell, I like a Steve Wilkes shout to come out of nowhere, to come into Detroit as a defensive coordinator there. Or your favorite now newly on the market, Dennis Allen. Maybe Dennis Allen gets a retread in Detroit.
Go to Chicago.
I think he's already set to go to the Bears.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, for offense, I mean, yeah, you might be losing Mark Brunell, but I mean, you see the development that's happened in that wide receiver room with Antoine Randall. He's been there for what, 6 years?
He's been there the whole Campbell run.
By Dan Campbell, yeah. I think that would be a huge thing if they're able to promote within. I think that's going to be their main priority, is try to promote from within before they take a step out. And especially with that locker room and a lot of these younger players now, it's hard to gain that trust in the locker room to get that buy-in. So I think that's where their focus should be, is trying to promote from within before they even look outside.